Climate narratives report. It's almost entirely assembled by AI agents. It goes over the climate events that were covered by the media throughout the week and also the public perceptions of them. The idea is really to get an idea of how those perceptions shift through time and also how they differ by geography. Now, I want to go over how that report is being assembled. So we'll go in here. This is a Hex notebook, and this is just an overview of the data platform. I've covered most of that in previous videos, but essentially, like just to go back through it, I do have some scrapers that are pulling data from media websites and social networks. And then I can summarize the events and extract the narratives from both of those sources. And those were the AI agents that have been covered in another video for that specific task. Now, once I have those events and those narratives, I assemble all of that into a nice clean data warehouse with my facts and dimensions. And this is really like the source that I'm using afterwards to assemble my report. As you can see, like I'm mostly on a Google Cloud infrastructure, but I also use LangChain and OpenAI. Those are really like my go-to framework and tools, LLM models for the AI agents, and of course, like I'm using Dagster to orchestrate the whole thing. Now, just zooming in a little bit more on the actual agents that are being used. Um, so again, like those were covered previously, but this is kind of the first two agents that are part of the assembly line. So the first one is about summarizing the events that have been covered by the media, and the other one is extracting the narratives from the conversations. Now, the focus today is really on that third one here, and this is how we assemble the final reports. Um, so yeah, let's just go through it. So, two things I want to show first, like just to give an overview. So I do have like that outline here. So we'll gather the data from the data warehouse and then just run like a few set of KPIs on top of it. Then we'll start introducing a bunch of small agents, um, which are summarizing the events, classifying the post, summarizing the narratives, and generating an introduction and title for the report. Now, if you're curious, like this is the entire DAG for that notebook. So there's a lot going on. Like there's a bunch of cells that are participating in the assembly of that full report. But I won't go through all of those cells individually. I'll just quickly go over like the high level mechanics of what's going on. All right, so the data, as I mentioned, like I'm pulling data from the data warehouse. So really, I'm just flattening up like those records. So each record is really like a post within a conversation and a conversation that relates to an article. So you can see like everything that has to do with the conversation itself, the post text, the user that submitted that post, the description of that user, all of that information, the geographical location of that user, and the actual article that is associated to it. Um, so once I have that data, let's just move forward. Then I can assemble like a bunch of KPIs. So like this would look something like this thing here. So I have that number of conversation, number of posts, the average number of posts per conversation. This is kind of important metric for me as I want to see like how rich those conversations are. the geolocation as well of the post. Like, this is super important for me just to be able to like do those kind of mapping here. And as well, there is the classification of discourse types. All right, so let's go back to the notebook itself. So I do have my KPIs now. So I have the data, I have the KPIs, and now I'm starting to introduce like those agents here. So I have that first agent that summarizes the events that were covered and discussed throughout the week. Now I follow the same pattern throughout that notebook. So I do use Pydantic and LangChain as really like the core two pieces for each agent, and of course as well like OpenAI for my model. Um, Now the Pydantic, I use Pydantic to define the expected structure of the output of the LLM chain. So this gives me an idea of or instead like it defines the class of the structure that I'm expecting. So in here, for example, I will get a list of all of the top 5 events that were discussed in the past 7 days. Now this is a list of the event summary class, and for each event summary I will have like a title, description, and the article URLs that are associated to that event. Now this is just a prompt, and as you can see, like with LangChain here, I can define like this would be my model. Like I'm using GPT-4o Mini, but I'm using that model and I'm appending that structure to it. So I have that prompt template afterwards. So my chain is that prompt template and the structured model. So that means that whenever I run that, like I will get a summary of those events that fits that structure. Um, as you can see here. All right, so it's kind of the same idea that is going on afterwards for the classification of post. Then like it's the same pattern that I'm following, but just in this one, like what I'm trying to together is whether like that post is an opinion, if it's informative, a question, or something else. The idea is that I want to gather the public perception, so I'm really trying to focus like on the post that express an opinion. So it does that, and then I get like my classification for all of the posts for that week, and this is kind of like just um, a, a chart representing that distribution. Now, in the summary of narratives, this is again like the same idea. Like I want to get a list of all of the key themes that were expressed throughout the week, and for each theme, I want to have like a descriptive name for it. What would be a description of that theme, and also some sample posts. So I want the LLM to also extract some of the posts that are representative for that theme. So again, I have my prompt, and here I will be passing like all of the narratives as a JSON object. So then I can see my output here. So for example, denial and mistrust, this is the description, and some of the posts that are representative of that theme. And then I massage that and transform that into a nice little markdown um, output. And finally, like this is like kind of wrapping up the whole thing. I'm passing the agent like the event summary and the narrative summary, and with those inputs, I wanted to generate like a title for the report and an introduction for the report. And so it does generate all of that. And like finally, there is like that map that I was showing. I'm using the H3 grid system to to map out like the dominant discourses by those H3 cell. And if you're familiar with it, or if you're not familiar with it, there's different resolutions to it. So it's all hexagons or whatever, and then like there's different resolutions to them. So you can really go really deep into an area, or you can aggregate them to a higher level. So those ones here were at um, a resolution 2 level. So then I can generate a map like that at the end. So that's it. Like at the end, like this is all reviewed by myself. So I do curate it and I do full proof it. But really the idea is that like I'm the main consumer of that report. Like so I do want to like every week run this and kind of let the agents do their job so that then afterwards like I can actually read it as the first the main user of this report. And so yeah, that's kind of it. That's kind of it. So thank you. Bye.